The father and mother have not seen the children for years. And it is for this reason, my friends, that I believe that we are beholden and indebted to Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa who, as the prophet, the final prophet of Allah, and the one who in his hadith and also in Quran, by the revelation which he received, has told us very clearly about what a woman in Islam is. Do not mix up our culture with what Islam has said. Our culture has got so many things. For example, I'm ending now. What would you say about a woman who is in her periods? I have seen in our own culture that she is not allowed even to cook. Not allowed to cook because she is in her days. Not allowed to cook. In some household, which is not in Islam, in some household, a woman in her days will sit in the corner. It's exactly what used to be perhaps in previous cultures, which we have inherited. Imam Rida salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi in Uyun Akhbar Rida says, hadith by As-Saduq alayhi rahmah, that when the time comes, monthly, tell the woman who is in her period to do the wudu and sit on the musalla for the duration which she used to sit for namaz, and communicate with Allah, not pray. Salat is not proper. Communicate. She can pray dua, she can tasbih, she can do. She will not read those 4 surahs which have got wajib sajda. That's all. But she will communicate. Then somebody said, but Rasulullah, can she? She said, yes. She has not been discarded. And the exemption of namaz upon the ladies during the period is not a punishment, it is grace. It is mercy. When I came to England for the first time, 1982, I met a European gentleman. He said, you are Muslim, aren't you? With a beard and all that. I said, yes. Yes. You are those who marry 4 wives. I said, yes. The way they knew us was that we eat mutton and beef, we don't eat pork. The second thing, we marry 4 wives. This is how they know Muslims. And the Muslims themselves, they don't know why they have been told to marry 4 wives. The question is that Maulana is sitting here and so are the elders. We have not been ordered to marry 4 wives, we have been allowed. To allow is something else and to order is something else. But why? What happened was in earlier days, that is in pre-Islamic days, man married numberless wives, numberless. And then when the children came and said, Papa, give us 10p, he would ask, which mother do you belong to? He wouldn't know which mother is the mother of the child. No maintenance, nothing. My brothers and sisters, read Islamic history. The allowance for 4 wives is not an increase from 1 to 4. It is a reduction from too many to 4. There is a marked difference. It was actually a reduction, a diminutive order, not of from 1 to many, but from too many irresponsible to 1. وَإِلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدًا, Quran says, if you cannot maintain, I don't use the word justice, because there can be never a justice between a wife I have married 15 years ago and a wife I have married last night. In fact, there is no such thing as among the children. I have 4, I love them all, but there is one who is the apple of my eye. Is there justice or there is no justice? There is justice. I love them all. I provide for all of them. But there is one I love most. If he comes late home, if he's late at home, doesn't appear in time, I get disturbed. And immediately as he comes, I go for namaz, 2 rakat. I say, shukr, my son has come. I love everyone, but I love him more. Yaqub loved Yusuf more, but he loved all of them. So that is not injustice. So one wife loved more than the other. What I clearly say is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً. If you cannot maintain equity, not justice, equity, the treatment has got to be equitable. Then if you cannot maintain equity among your wives, marry only one. فَوَاحِدَةً, Allah says in Quran. So when I tell my English friends and Jewish friends who come there, they come there quite often. In the last sitting, Janab Akbar Bhai was there was a Christian padri there sitting, if you saw him, an American padri, he comes there. I tell them that how about those mistresses in Oxford and Cambridge, where a man has got a wife and has got so many mistresses. Oh, that is the fashion of our life. I said, well, you will do it that way, we will do it legally. If a man has a reason for marrying another woman, the wife has not had no deliveries, not produced, not issued, no children, after having tried, after having been medically advised, he marries again. The wife has fallen irretrievably ill, he marries again. It can happen. Equity has got to be maintained. But rather than go and hunt for mistresses in society and live with illegitimate partners, live legitimately. That was what we were told. So, gentlemen, there are so many aspects. I will summarize, and the summary is this much, that when we talk of all the problems that we have, I can assure you that most of the problems are because of our own cultural background. We decided that women will not be taught. We decided that women will have no access to Maulana, for example. We decided that women will be only going to majalis. We decided that women will have this much of knowledge. We decided that they will be educated this much and not more. We decided upon their way of life. We decided upon our cultural habits. And because we happen to be Muslims and Shias Nashis, we thought that this was what religion taught. It is not so. We will have to change. And I hope that I have been able to make a discussion wide enough for all of us to contemplate and think. As a recommendation, I would recommend, if that book is available, and I believe it is, that please do read Nizam Zan Dar Islam, The Right of Women in Islam, by Allama Shaheed Mutahari, Ridwanullah alayh. Do read that, and you will find that he has discussed certain aspects: marriage, divorce, inheritance, temporary marriages, permanent marriages, polygamous marriages, monogamous marriages, cultural backgrounds, and all that. And he's given a fair treatment to the subject, and I hope that with these few words I have been able to deal with the subject. I'm really apologizing if I have not been able to give more justice to this, because I am coming from my tour from Gujarat just about a few hours ago, and there have been some sad news. You must have heard Mr. Asgharali, the president of London Jamaat, expired, and all that. So there has been a lot of turmoil in my mind. We all pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give us tawfiq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I think there will be some questions now.
Yes, of course.
May I ask?
Yes, please do.
Quran says الرجال قوامون على النساء. So what precisely this word qawwam means, and in what ways man is superior to women?
The qawwam is interpreted in two ways. One, of course, which we will all know, is biologically and physically. man is supposed to be stronger than a woman. As we know, the build-up of the physique. But the second thing which the ulama have written about qawwamuna is what I have earlier mentioned, that man shall be responsible to stand up to maintain the women. We are responsible for maintenance of women. Qawwamuna ala nisa has been interpreted as such. It does not mean that superiority which somebody might be hinting, that there is a superiority in some status. No. That there is something that we have exclusive or we have some extra rights. It doesn't mean that. Superiority in our physique and superiority in a sense that we are supposed to maintain. Qawwamuna ala nisa. We are supposed to maintain them. That they will remain dependent upon man as far as maintenance and subsistence was concerned.
Excuse me, I just want to... Please take the mic.
Of Allama Mutahari has been translated into Gujarati also by Sultan Akhtar Patel.
Fine. If it has been translated, then that is an added advantage. But maybe some of them would like to read in English. I don't know whether it has been translated in Urdu or not. It is. So, alhamdulillah, it is available.
To throw some light on meher, because some of the Jamaat and some committee have fixed a fixed amount for the meher. They don't allow, even ask the girl. They just fix it and the amount is 1,001. You cannot go below it. You can exceed the amount. But
people say, likhwao 1 lakh shilling. Prestigious symbol. But will you pay that? No, we hum maaf kara denge. See, that is something else. You see, once we have agreed to a mahar, that mahar becomes a liability and it has got to be paid. And as we know the mas'ala, if that has been agreed, then if the bride says that I must be paid in advance, it is wajib to pay in advance, otherwise marriage cannot be consummated. The consummation of marriage will not take place if the wife has put a condition that the mahar should be paid to her. But if there is no such condition, then of course mahar can be paid at any time, but it is a liability and the husbands cannot escape to say that, well, it was agreed upon that time and now I would like to skip it off. We cannot skip it off. So this is what mahar is, and I believe that we understand it clearly, that the right is of the marrying partners to determine the extent of mahar.
Status of women and men is equal according to Quran and according to Sharia. Then why, when the man will go to heaven, he'll get hurs? But what about the woman then?
This is a question which is really very interesting because it is a question of hurs. But let me tell you one thing, that I can't understand the spirit of the question, because what does the woman want now? You said that men and women are equal, although I didn't say that, nor is it in Islam that they are equal. But let us accept that premise on which you have formed your question. The question will immediately arise, what does a woman want now? A man has been given hurs, what does a woman want? He wants to have several husbands. The question is this, my friends, and let us be very careful, that the bounties of Jannah, the ni'mah of the heaven, in the Quran and Majid are symbolic sometimes. Sometimes they are in the form of metaphors. We don't know. We know this much, that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His language has tried to speak to us in a manner that we may comprehend. When He speaks of the apple, or speaks of the poem, or speaks of the stream of honey and milk, it could be that Allah knew that we will not be able to understand what it actually means. It is the bliss, eternal bliss. What form it will take, we will know after our death and when we reach there for Hisab.
Good arguments are given to justify polygamy, like moral, social upliftment and the things which you just mentioned. But not a word is mentioned about the tremendous emotional stress that a woman undergoes when faced with this situation. And the feeling is that this philosophy is generally takes care of a man's needs, but feels that the woman's feelings are of no consequence. So what do you have to say on this?
Well, it is right if it has not been taken into account, because there are cases and cases of polygamy. There are cases where a husband deserts the wife and goes after another woman, marries her, deserting the first wife, ignoring her, neglecting her. That creates a lot of emotional upset. We agree to that. Or for no reason whatsoever, the bond of love that has been established in man and woman is broken because somebody else enters into it. I do understand this. I understand the emotional and sentimental commotion that can occur in a woman. But now that we talk, let me request the questioner to try to understand the other side of it. What would happen if a woman cannot conceive? There may be a very deep bond of love between husband and wife, very good affection, they love each other very deeply, but the woman cannot conceive. At that particular moment, her husband has got to marry again to get children. Or they loved each other very well, but the lady has now become sick, ill, and she cannot participate in life. Their love will remain, but she has to marry. It is true, Allama Hilli wanted to say about this also. Allama Hilli says that I used to write my scripts at home, and I used to actually try to save them so that one day it will be printed, because those days there were no press. Somebody from the neighborhood went to my wife and said, "Do you know that Allama has married again?" He writes in his life that I had not married, nor had I even thought of it. But somebody from the neighborhood went and told the lady that, "Do you know that your husband has married again?" And the wife, without even asking me whether I had married again or not, took my scripts and threw it into the well. When I came home, I could not see my scripts. So I said, "But where are the scripts?" He said, "Go and ask your second wife." But where is that second wife? "Well, I know everything. You may try to hide from me, but I have 4 eyes. But which is the second pair of eye? The neighborhood." I can understand. I am not for a moment advocating polygamy. And I can assure the questioner that I have only married once. But I will say this, that there are situations where this has got to be taken into consideration. We do not say this. Take an example of today's Iran. Ayatollah Khomeini, faced with war, right? So many widows are there, young widows. There's economic problem, and there are many other problems which need not be said here. He stood up and said, "Baba, take another lady for your wife, maintain her." Recently, Agha Rafsanjani spoke openly that we are faced with the problem of widows, young widows. Their husbands have died. Either new people who want to marry may please marry the widows, or if you don't want to marry the widows, then please those who are married may take one for a wife so that you can maintain and there is no social evil spreading. Immediately the West made a mockery of it. We had all the press reports against it, that they are now preaching these and that. But that was the only solution. And even in the time of the Prophet, it's true, and Maulana will bear me out, that ladies sometimes used to come into the mosque and say, "Ya Rasulullah, I am the widow of so-and-so, who died in company with you in so-and-so battle. I have 2 children by that marriage. Can you arrange for my marriage or not?" And the Prophet would look at the Sahaba and say, "Is there anyone who will take this lady in marriage so that she can be maintained and her children can be maintained. So either somebody would come and take her hand in marriage if he was marrying for the first time, or even sometimes for the second time. So let us not only take emotional aspect into consideration. Let us take some other practical aspects also.
It says that you spoke that the allowance of 4 wives is a diminution.
Yeah.
Can you throw some light as to why 4, not less, not more?
Why 4 and not less and not more is a question that I cannot answer, because what I cannot answer, I don't know about it. I do not know exactly why it was 4 and why not 2 or 3. I do not know. But this much I know for sure, that it was a diminutive one and not one which increased or encouraged people to go into a marrying spree. You can go and you'll find that this is what the Prophet. Why 4? I just don't pretend to know. I don't know why 4. I don't know.
Maulana, he has explained the problem very carefully, but I just want to bring to notice that in Bombay, about 2 years back, on June 7, one news was published in Times of India. In fact, what I want to tell is that this law of polygamy in Islam is actually working as a deterrent to the number of marriages. The paper submitted at PhD level, which was awarded PhD on polygamy, was that 15.7% of Indian Hindu population is having more than one wife. More than 4.7% of upper caste Hindu Brahmins, they are having more than one wife. More than 3.4, if my memory is not mistaken, Christians are having more than one wife, and you will be surprised that Muslims are coming at the lowest end, 2.8%. So this, I think, proves that research paper done by a Hindu girl proves that this law of Muslim polygamy, as enunciated in Surah Al-Nisa, ayat number 3. I'm not an alim, so I don't know exact wording, so I've kept Quran open. Actually works as a deterrent to the number of wives. I'm sorry, I'm interfering in the lecture, but again, if we come back to the ayat of Al-Nisa, ayat number 3, the reason is not economy for polygamy. The reason is very clearly mentioned here. If ye fear that ye shall not be able to deal justly with the orphans, marry women of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4. I think that also answers, it is not exactly 4, it is 2 or 3 or 4. But if ye fear that ye shall not be able to deal justly, like Maulana, respected Maulana said already, with them, then only one or a captive that your right hand possesses, that will be more suitable to prevent you from doing justice. I hope this will satisfy my sister who is sitting in other.
Thank you. And another sister has a question here. Why is it the witness of 2 women is considered equal to 1 man?
Not in all cases, but in some. You see, the witness or bearing a witness or testimony is a very important and very significant function. And because women are emotionally involved and sentimentally very much involved, more than men, in matter of witness, some neutrality has got to be maintained. The